you know, I'm going to share teaching, but what I mean is audio or okay, that's fine. We'll do without it. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. As I got a good introduction there from Jun Hong, my name is Justin Eggert. I have a school, Wu Academy in Santa Rosa, California. I teach Taiji actually at a college. It's a junior college called Santa Rosa Junior College. So this is what I do professionally for the last few decades. Yeah, some people say I don't look that old, so maybe that's the Taiji. I don't know, but so today, actually, what I planned for you, I don't want you guys to just walk away because what I'm going to show you first, it's going to seem really simple, okay, really basic, but we're going to take those basic foundational movements and we're going to pull out all kinds of things from methods that apply to the rest of the form, to martial arts, to movement in general. And so it's going to seem really basic at first. If you haven't done Taiji, then it might be kind of challenging. We'll see. But hopefully, even if you know Taiji well, some of this might be helpful in your teaching as well. Or say if you're a teacher, it might also be helpful in teaching because this is kind of stuff that actually no one taught me originally, but over the years of breaking it down, helping people with disabilities, helping seniors, helping all kinds of people, not just athletes, then you start to realize what is really going on in some of these basics from Taiji. And there's a lot of cool stuff to learn from them that might not be as apparent. So I'll try to do is, we're gonna first start walking and doing some different techniques together. I'll teach you this really simple, it's kind of a fundamental walking technique that actually comes from Yang style Taiji, but we're gonna apply it to every style. So there's gonna be like overarching principles that is going to come up and it's gonna also apply to your hand movements, even though we're gonna be walking most of the time. You'll see we'll kind of get into a lot of the aspects. So go ahead and just stand up. I'll get right to it. And you'll see as we break it apart. Oops, should have checked that first. All right. Cool. So this first technique, sometimes we just call 上步, right? It means like advancing step or a forward step. Like I said, comes from Yang style Taiji. Let's first go through it a couple times. And then as we break down each part, you're gonna see we're gonna get into all kinds of stuff. It's gonna open a big can of worms on every subject. All right, so first go ahead and open your arms up to the sides. And we'll first just do the technique. And then we might end up actually doing some other warm-ups involved with the movements. Sorry about that. I didn't get a chance to check my camera position. All right, good. So the first is we're gonna have 7 steps. I call it 7 points, okay? 7-point walking. So we're gonna just take steps, but each step is gonna have 7 key critical things to focus on. And you actually wanna stop and make sure they happen in a sequence like this. All right, so knees open, feet flat. We're gonna first pivot. So step 1 is pivot. I'm gonna pivot. Let's go ahead and I'll do our left leg. Okay, pivot the left foot 45 degrees to the left. Okay, key is it's only pivoting, no shifting, and your knee wants to track there with the toe. Okay, number 2 is shift. So I'm gonna shift. I'm also going to actually close this hip so that my body turns to be aligned. My center line, see my center, my shoulders and hips turn, they're gonna become aligned with my knee and foot. Some people like to keep this more straight, but for this practice, let's go ahead and line this up diagonal 45 degrees with the foot. Okay, during this time, I completely empty the back foot. So you can check it. You shouldn't have any weight here. 0 weight. Okay, so all your weight right now is here. So the second point is to commit 100%. The third point is once you've got that 100% commitment, you're gonna retract the heel up and underneath your hip. So you think of like, bring it to your hip. You don't wanna lift all the way up, okay? That's way too high, but you're gonna feel that your heel comes underneath. It stays pretty close to the floor, but it's aligned with the back of your hip here. All right? Now the fourth point, we're gonna open this hip and shoot the heel out from the hip. See, there's gonna be like a connection here. You're gonna shoot the heel out and you're still 100% weighted here. When your foot gets close to the ground, don't step, do not step. You're just gonna reach, and right before you get to the ground, you're gonna wait because the foot dropping is gonna be step number 5, okay? So reaching out, you're still 100% weighted and bent back here. You also haven't rotated, so your body is still aiming this way. Your foot is now aiming forward. Now, number 5, you wrap around, okay? I call this screwing down on the ground or silk reeling through the legs. So what I'm gonna do is, before I put any weight anywhere, and there's no shifting yet, I wrap around and stay 100% on the back foot. But now both feet are dug in and twisted into the ground. Okay, now number 6, the 6th wave, the 6th point, is now you use that opening to kick into the back foot. And that will cause you to shift over. Now notice I still haven't rotated. So I went from this foot, I shift, and there's no rotation. It's side to side between my left heel and my right heel. Okay, so I'm back here, open the lip, then I shift. Now when I get to where I'm about 70% on the front heel, okay, towards the front heel, then I'm going to twist and rotate. Okay, I don't want to shift anymore. So that rotation, see, should happen like this. See my head staying still, my center of mass staying still, but now I'm rotating. See this, turning the hips. Good. So that's, oops, my fingers need to be able to count to 7. There we go. That's 7 steps to make a new stand. Okay, so we're gonna do on the other side. Ready? Pivot the right. 1. Empty and commit 100% right there. There's nothing back here anymore. You don't need it. 2. Now 3, pull the foot underneath you and line it up under your hip. Okay, that's 3. 4, shoot the leg out. Don't step down. Okay, that's 4. 5 is grab the ground. I'm gonna reach through my hips, see, and wrap. I'm gonna explain all this a lot more detail. Wrap around later. Right now, we'll just roll through it. 6, shift by kicking into the floor. So I'm gonna kick and plunge my power down through my heel and shift to the other heel. Then 7, I'm gonna square up. So now I rotate and I face straight forward now, aligned with the front foot. Notice there's some space between my feet, so it's not on the same line. There's about 6 inches. Foot is the maximum. You don't want to get wider than that. So it has some space between the feet every time. Okay, I'm gonna have to back up each time so you guys can see me. You can shake loose. All right, ready? We're gonna do one more time. So we had our left leg in front. Pivot again. 1, 2, commit. Check, is the back foot have any weight on it? It should be that when you go to pick it up, there's no shifting, no change in your head. Good. Now, that's 3. 4, shoot out. 5, wrap around, grab the ground, dig into the floor. And like I said, we're gonna explain this in more detail. 6, shift, no rotation. And then 7, rotate, no shifting. So now I'm squared up with my front foot. So you see this really common type of walking, right? Just means you pivot first, you roll, right? It happens all the time in Taiji, shifting forward to a front both stance, shangbu. Okay, now let's break apart all of those 7 points and why they're separated out. And there's a whole bunch of stuff to go through this, huh? The first one, you want to learn how to pivot in a specific way. Watch this. Well, you can't see, but I'll explain very carefully. So you stretch through your toes. I should have worn a barefoot to show you, huh? You stretch through your toes, big toe, pinky toe, and you're gonna reach, I'll have my hand be my toe, okay? Your toes are gonna reach long, as far as they can, along the floor, okay? And I'm going to focus all of my weight into the heel. So even though I have a whole bunch of weight here, if I stretch my toes long across the floor, not up, not down, just out, then I can now look, I can pivot really clearly on the center of the heel. Do you want to learn how to control which part of the foot your weight is in? And you need to pick an exact point to pivot on. With practice, you can get to where you know exactly which part, you can feel it, right? In your mind's eye, in your proprioception, your sense of yourself and your center in your body, you can feel exactly which point your weight is on, and then keep it and drive and coordinate your hips and knees, right? So that that doesn't change. So you have a very clear, smooth pivot point. If you do that, then you're gonna have this anchoring here. What happens often when people go to pivot, okay? When people go to pivot, they're going along a little bit and their weight moves slightly, front, back, left to right, and that causes this kind of wobble this way. So as you're pivoting, you're gonna have like a wobble, and that makes your foot feel like it's stuck. And a lot of people who are learning Taiji, they always tell me, oh, I need new shoes because I can't pivot here, right? And I tell them, no, we're gonna get you the worst shoes, go onto the worst surface, and you gotta make it pivot still, okay? That means you have good technique, you understand where your pivot points are. You always wanna know where your center of gravity is and where the pivot points are, okay? So in Taiji, it's about going slow enough to be able to find all of those tiny details like this. Okay, so whenever you go to pivot, on number one, stretch your toes, feel your weight in the center of the heel, and then pivot and open the hip here, okay? And try to keep the foot totally flat along the floor. Don't pick up the toe. This is a common mistake here. When you add another plane like this, okay, you're gonna add all kinds of momentum, you're gonna roll all around. See if you can just keep it here and open it up there. Cool, yeah, I'll answer your question, Kyrie, in a second. Cool. So watch this on, the pivot point there, stretch the toes, keep it totally flat, and it's just gonna skim the floor. It's gonna skim the floor, you don't wanna pick it up. And you don't wanna, if you shift into it, then you'll feel like your ball of your foot's too heavy or it's stuck on the ground. Okay, so a lot of people don't really spend much time on this and they just kind of get over somehow and move on. And that's causing a lot of, first of all, inaccurate, sometimes bad alignment, bad power, and then balance. They don't know why they're out of balance. Okay, so ready? We're gonna shift. Oh, I'm sorry, no shift. We're gonna rotate, but no shift. That's step number one. This one I have is gonna be kind of simple like that. The second one though, we have a lot of stuff to practice. Number two, that's where you commit 100% into this foot. Okay, I have a couple of simple practice for you. One is you can go side to side. You practice folding your hip and shifting over. You're gonna keep folding and folding down into femur bone, okay? Don't let your knee go past your toe. You're gonna fold back more towards the heel. If you don't feel your heels really pressed in, then you're probably on the ball of the foot, right? You wanna feel it there. When you get to where there's nothing here, then you'll notice this becomes empty. It's like your foot actually wants to peel off the floor. Then you know you've got your weight over here. You're shifting and then your foot feels gonna peel off the floor. Now, the reason why it gets more complicated than you might think, most people shift a percentage with the top. So they're moving, they're perceiving like, I see people come in all the time, especially seniors. They're moving like this and their hips are locked in place. Hips barely move, but they can cantilever themselves like that and come across. Okay, if you do any kind of martial arts, you know you don't want to be throwing all these wild, crazy punches, right? You want to try to keep everything tight and in this kind of box, right? So Taiji is trying to really focus on understanding and feeling every part. So like when I go here and I go to shift, most people have some kind of lean, and that makes it so, oh, it feels like my foot's empty. But actually, right, the second they go to pick up, they have this huge, like the seesaw, teeter-totter thing to do, right? Start wobbling around. So what you want to do is, we want to move from down here, right? When you move from up here, you can do it, but you have to constantly adjust really sharp and quick. Okay, you have to balance. If you start down here is already a line and there's nothing there, you don't have to balance, right? When you go to move, you're like in the middle of digging yourself down into the floor. When your head and the shoulders have a bunch of movement, then you're gonna have to counteract all of that with lots of correction. And so you're gonna see people like, they think they're bad at balance, but it's because they're throwing themselves up into their head all the time. They're moving around from the top instead of from down below, right? So that's why 2 is really important. And I'm gonna get into this 2 kinds of practice. Some of it will be like Qigong, okay? Should be relaxing. So I go fold until there's no weight there. And I wanna make sure I didn't lean, keep it straight, and just feel all the weight gets there. And this will want to peel off the ground naturally. And you can without shifting or changing your head position. So ready, shift with me. You go across, fold the hip until there's just nothing there. And then you can move your foot. Make sure that as your weight shifts, this has to change to accept it. If it's tight, then you'll move this way or your knees will push out. Fold the hip, keeps the knee behind the toe. And you can go pretty low, right? Without the knee shooting past the toe if you fold the hip in. Okay, try to give you like 100 little details really quick here. Yeah, you guys are doing pretty good. Now I have another exercise. This one's good for the rotation. And this one will help anything, actually, all movement. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a little circle here with my palm. You see this movement in like a Hunyuan Qigong. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that Qigong. Yeah, you circle your palms. So I borrow and steal from a lot of places. Okay, as I'm circling, okay, then I'm going to try to move my shoulders. And I'm gonna move my hips. So this is an exercise to try to find the middle. Okay, with practice, you gotta do lots of reps this. You can get to where, see your head stay still. You can feel 1 centimeter to this side, all of that meat, bones, muscle, organs, those are all moving together to that direction. And then on the other side of the center, those will actually activate and pull back and retract so that the middle, see, stays totally still. So you feel your back muscles, shoulder muscles, or shoulder joints, right? Hips, they're all turning around the middle. And so that stays still. You can make it bigger so it's easy to see. See, all this happens, but the middle stays still. Okay, by practicing this more, it gets more and more refined. You start to notice if you sway a couple centimeters this way, you feel it right away. It's like a big, like a red light. It's really, it's a red flag for yourself. You can feel it. So you gotta practice this a lot more than today's class. I'm just gonna show you a bunch of ways you can develop this skill. So then, like I said, this side to side one, I kind of call the crosshairs training. Because what you wanna do is you start imagining a line on the floor. You have a center here front, and you know exactly where to set side. So you can, if you look from the bird's eye view, you can hone in on this crosshairs of exactly where your center is and exactly which part of your foot or which part of the floor your center's on. See that? And then the more you get used to folding the hips to shift it instead of shifting with everything else, see? Then you're gonna feel this really heavy, sort of relaxed. Definitely is not easy. You feel a lot more burning down in the back of the hips and the quads, okay? You're gonna feel a lot, you're doing a lot more weightlifting this way. But you can feel, you move very quick between the different foot position and it's very easy for you to keep track of your footwork, your footing. And you think of, you're gonna change your mindset to where, when I go here, I'm gonna try to hit this target, okay? I need to think more of how do I get my feet underneath me to get there, right? That's good basic martial arts ideas. But here is a really slow, methodical, precise way to develop that kind of skill. So side to side is the crosshair, and then rotational so you don't move. Just kind of reviewing those real quick. So you're gonna feel that your shoulders and hips, they turn. You dig into your feet, pushing and folding to turn your hips. See that? I'm trying to give you a lot of details in a quick session here. See, I push down and fold, push down and fold, hips turn, center stays steady, and now you can feel the center line theory becomes really clear. Your body half becomes, you're really aware of it all the time. So on number one, I pivot the front foot, but there's no shift or rotation. You're learning to independently differentiate this whole hip, knee, foot, and pivot very clearly on one spot. But for number two, I need to shift everything from below. So I fold the hip, dig in, and commit my weight down into that foot. Okay, I like to start with the heel. You can get a little bit in front of the heel and then spread the toes through the ground. Yeah, but at first, definitely go towards the heel and learn how to drop the tailbone so that you don't bend here with the butt out. Okay, you'll see people doing Taiji and they get this really big cantilever and then step and they have to lean back maybe or sway. In general, we're trying to get rid of that. Okay, so watch out for that if you're already practicing and you, sometimes happens from this type of Taiji where there's a rocking. It's not very traditional, but a lot of modern forms, or say like simplified 24 Taiji, a lot of people know that, they actually like rock like this. And I was told actually by the someone who's related to the creator of the form that they did this so they could match the group demo. Here we go. Here we go. But if you meet some traditional Yang style masters, you probably already know they're really annoyed by how much people rock like this because it's not traditional. It's not useful. So anyway, it's useful for timing. You know, if you have 1,000 people and we go, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, right. But you know, we're practicing that for our demos. I hope you know this should be a side thing later after you get good at Taiji yourself, achieve your own goals. Cool. So I'm gonna open and spiral, no shifting. Back to the basics here. Now I fold down and drive. See, I'm driving towards the floor here so that my hip is soft. It gets out of the way. See that? Okay, but I'm not gonna step yet because I don't want my step to be connected to my shift. I want the step to be completely differentiated from the shift, just like I had my positioning, my pivoting differentiated from my rotation. And now I rotate the center and shift, but I only get to this point before I stop number two. So you're gonna drop your tailbone, fold your hips, keep your head on top, and relax into your feet on the ground. Okay, and you have nothing back here. That means you're ready to go. Okay, ready? Open, drop, empty the back one. Now look, when you bring the heel underneath your hip, okay, you are already done shifting. There shouldn't be any more leaning and there should be no rising. Here's the other thing that happens. When people lift one side, they tend to kind of lift the whole thing. But we want to separate and just contract from the heel to the hip. That's independent. So when I bring this in underneath me, right, I'm gonna bring that underneath my center here, close to the other leg, right? And it's gonna create a zigzag. I'm gonna shoot out and retract. Retract first, shoot out. Okay? So you practice those completely separate. One goes underneath you, the other one goes out and kick away, but your center stays still. Right? Bop, bop. So you wanna make sure that when you pick your knee up, your hip stays down. That's my biggest trick there. When you pick my knee up, hip stays down, or even can sink a little bit more. So in the beginning, I like to tell people to sink more and build their strength, as long as you don't bounce back up later, okay? Good, as you probably know, if you're doing competition style Taiji, there's in the rules, if you rise up and drop down, you're getting deducted. So if you didn't know that, and you wanna compete later when those happen, you're gonna watch out for this, okay? There's a reason. You basically completely uproot yourself. Taiji has a lot of the applications actually, when I'm making a change, I'm in grappling. I'm already connected to somebody. Okay, I'm not boxing and walking like this. Okay, what I see, I have someone here, we're braced here, I turn, okay? I need to be able to continue to wrap and engage and root while I change my position of my foot. If I just pick up my foot, it's a really vulnerable part. It's a vulnerable time. So I want to learn how to root down, connect to someone as I make the change, so I can come in, slide, do different things, but I'm maintaining the same connection to the ground and not picking myself up during my step, right? And we also don't want to do this. We don't want to roll our foot out. So that's another problem. People, when they think that the straight line is faster, but actually you can try this. This is a cool drill I did with my students. We do the zigzag step and try to step on each other's toes, right? You know, we're doing different kind of drills where we're moving down the floor, and we actually try to step on each other's toes. And you'll find that the people who contract the leg and shoot the leg the way it's meant to be as a hinge joint are always a lot faster. If you try to push off and go back or forward on a straight line, you're basically throwing yourself around. Your muscles don't work that way. They don't like to, if they're already straight, it doesn't like to kick like this, right? You can try to use your butt muscles a little, it works a little bit. But if you contract in and shoot on every step, on every kick, right? You get a lot of this, you become more centered and you use the leg the way it's meant to be. It's actually faster to zigzag, right? I know some of you guys probably already know that, but this is one thing you can learn and get really good at in Taiji, even though you have to practice it faster, but you'll start to notice that the habits you build here actually can help you with your other more fast movement. Okay, I'm getting a reminder, we're halfway. See, we're only on the second wave, or the second point. Good. Okay, so we pivot 1, have 2, see, full down and in. You can sink down, but don't rise, okay? Then retract the leg underneath you and shoot the leg out. Retract, so you can go, it's good to practice front and back, like rewind and fast forward. Slow motion, okay? And faster too, it's good. Okay, just watch out for bobbing because it gets a little easier to bob. Good. Now, one thing I didn't mention and talk about, but I will add a little bit here. It's not the main point of this lecture, is the bowstring theory. So remember that you want the heel to feel like it makes a straight line diagonally coming to the hip. So when I bring this underneath, see, my hip actually kind of comes with it, but it retracts and then it shoots. And I keep this hip down and folded to counteract that, so that this can make this movement, but this is always counteracting and folding to make sure your center doesn't move. Okay, so on 3, pull the foot in, sink, no rising. On 4, reach the foot out, but don't drop. No dropping like this. Like you're gonna shoot into the floor as if the floor is not there. Yeah, you're gonna go through the floor when you make your step. You don't want to reach out and then fall. That's our goal anyways in Taiji. When we're going slow, you reach, shoot towards the floor, and it's like you're gonna go through the floor. You don't anticipate, oh, I'm almost there. That's what most people do and what we do throughout our life, right? Put your foot out, fall on it. Put your foot out, fall on it. That's how most people just casually walk. Or running, you know, it's like extreme falling with a big lean. So you want to try to do this where you reach out, don't put anything down, stay back and anchored on the back foot. Okay, and then you're gonna let it drop. When you let it drop, right? It's not a drop. I know I keep contradicting myself. It's actually going to be something that we call chensu, like silk reeling. I'm going to dig in and screw my knees, hips, heels and toes into the ground, okay? But not until 4 is completed. So I found where I'm good. I found my placement, and then I fill it up, dig in, but no shift. You see, I could actually still pick this up. I don't want to shift into it. Minimize the shifting. Okay, so you can test it, right? I like to test every now and then. You go, bam, you make something, you make a position, make a step, and then test it. Make sure you still have 100% on that back foot. All right, so this comes to the meatiest part. The most difficult part is the number 5, okay? Silk reeling. So this, the term silk reeling comes from Chen style, right? But I've found that most styles of Taiji are kind of trying to describe a similar thing using different words. There is different methods, of course, but a very similar idea coming from the same roots. Okay, so relax a second. Shake loose in case you're standing on one leg for a long time. Cool. So, silk reeling. We're going to give you the Cliff Notes silk reeling workshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm spreading my waist. This is really important. I spread the waist so that I can feel my lower back muscles and the back of the glutes open up and push back. Okay, so this feels like if you had a closed door and you feel like it fills and it pushes the 2 walls apart, like the side walls of your waist and your lower back and tailbone, they go, they drop down and fill out. So if you go against the wall, you can feel like you push and make like kind of a J shape with the lower spine. Just make sure you don't tuck the tailbone forward. Should be down. Okay, when I do that, drop down, and I'm gonna open my thigh to the point that you can get your friends, right, to put pressure and push in. You wanna get your thighs and knees out and open. It's pretty wide so that you have some space here. It's like you have a ball brace between here. Okay, then second part, okay? The knees now, after your thighs are open, the knees turn inwards a little bit and make sure your tailbone stays down. What does that mean? So it's like I'm opening out, but when I get to my knees, they turn in. That's why I was talking about screwing down. It doesn't mean that my knees go like this. It's not this kind of dance, right? Even I like the early 90s too, but it wraps around the joint. It's like you're kind of like, you're twisting around the joint itself. You feel the muscles and tendons and fascia like twisting and stretching until your knee faces forwards and your hip opens out backwards. And then remember, drop the tailbone so you won't be like this. Okay, that's the first part. Once your knee starts to come in, then you go down the inside of the calf muscle to the heel. And you can feel that once your knee starts to come in, it digs into the heel. There's like this sitting feeling. So I spread the waist, spread the hips, twist the knees inwards so they don't splay out. It's not like men spreading, okay? Inwards. And then you drop down into your heels and you spiral with your feet. So there's 2 circles. Circle from the hip to the knee, then circle from your heel through your toes, pinky toe to big toe. That's gonna be almost the same method there every time you make a stand. We don't really use our legs the opposite way of that because it's typically bad for your knee. This ensures hips are spread and connecting your lower back. Your knees always are aligned with your feet, okay? You don't have lots of weird twists or pushing out in front. And then your feet, they also have a second layer of twisting into the floor. You can feel the pinky toe and the big toe, they sort of massage around and dig into the ground. Okay, so when I say root or drill into the floor or do silk reel through the legs, that's what I'm talking about. It's like you're wrapping all the muscles like it's kind of like a coil, right? With a wrapped wire around it. Yeah, or like those brass rings, when you're doing the southern fist. Okay, but you wrap it around like a barbershop pole down to the floor. 2 circles, hip and knee, then heel and the toes. Once you get that, then you can now use power and come up. So that's complicated, right? You have to take a lot of time to lay down that pathway neurologically so that you can keep that spread. The result, though, is that your knees will almost never, ever buckle while you're walking, taking a step. If you spiral like this down, you move and you step, and that's locked in place. You can even, you don't want to, but you can take kicks there, and it's pretty solid. You don't like to get kicks that are weighted, right? I don't like that anyways. But you can now, you're solid, okay? You're like a mountain down below, the foundation of the house. Boom. Right? So we call it rooting, like tree trunks. Okay, so that's number 5, all of that. So sometimes just brush over it really quickly, but it's the part that everyone skips. And from teaching people many years, I noticed people, they get their foot out, they drop some weight in, and then they extend the back leg, okay? In general, there's not a lot of extra activity at this point. They just want to get to the technique, so they tend to skip over it. It's just a common mistake, or common just, area of refinement, okay? Something that you can improve on. The reason why I spend so much time here, though, is it completely changes your Taiji. If you step out here, and before you go and try to issue any kind of power or make any shifting, you dig in and you feel that lock in place. Now you have this really active, it's nonstop, it's going spiral, spiral, there's tone there. It's not like one time and then limp, it's always tone. And now when you go to do something, you have this really deep, heavy base to power and twist all your movement, okay? This is a completely different technique. And even if you don't do like the martial side or like push hands or anything, this is helpful. Like I found that it really helps when I'm jumping and I land in horse stance, modern WUSHU, right? So you keep your knees, right? They wrap around, you just feel this kind of dig in. It's one example of a crossover to style you guys might know if you found this on Jiao or another Kung Fu instructor, right? Cool. So before I'd make my shift, I did 4. Now look, 5. So what I did was I opened my hip and knee, tucked in, and it went to my heel and my toes, and then grabbed the ground too. And so now I can feel this like really deep connection to the floor when I go to make my shift, when I go to make power. Otherwise, you're most likely going to rush your hands because you won't feel the base supporting you from below going up. Okay. Plus, if you can feel this where you just push off. If you're just pushing off, it's better than nothing. But if you wrap around, then actually you're going to feel that no matter how hard you push off, it still just balances you on the other side. You don't get this kind of stuff, right? You because of the roundness of it, you don't get this where you end up, overshooting yourself. Okay, you get this, boom, and it just locks you down more. The more power you add, the more balanced you are. So that's a good limitation that I think Taiji has a very clever solution to. Regardless of how many people use it to pressure test and fight, right? Don't worry about that. First, we're doing a drill called 7-step walking. 7 points. Okay, let's switch to the other side. So I'm gonna do one more time. We're almost to the last part. There's still a lot more to go on. Let me check this. Yeah, no problem. So I might also get into how the silk rolling works in the arms, but for now, it's all about the base. So you pivot with 0 shift. Okay, you shift. Okay, without any leaning, all from below. You retract the leg. It's coming to you, not going to somewhere else. Coming to you. Then you shoot the leg to your target on the floor. But you stay back. The leg goes out by itself. Okay? Then before you can shift, you need to wind and root and dig in. See, I haven't shifted yet. My weight's still here. After I dig in, I actually can pick it up. I didn't shift yet. Once it's dug in like this, now I go, and kick. That's number 6. So I'm gonna add the shift. And I just keep winding and screwing down into the floor to cause the shift. It's like I feel this kind of like continuous circling. circling through the back leg. Woof, right? There's a flow to it. It's not a fire, one big muscle. It's tonal. Okay. So look, then I go shift for 6. I want to make sure that I don't rotate yet. Okay? In this exact stance drill, we save the rotation for later. First, we move in. Then afterwards, we've saved some rotational force. Okay. So we're gonna kind of do this kind of figure eight, coming up through the back using the rotation we just worked on earlier. I'll explain more. So ready? 5, 6. Dig in the ground. Save the rotation. Yeah, all I have to say about that is that as you start to move here, if you keep your hip open completely, then your knee, see, and your thigh will get jammed forward. So make sure that you have a little bit of a sink as you shift. So I'm shifting, right? But I have a sink and a fold so that I don't jam my knee forward. See, that comes from hips moving like this instead of dropping down. Now, if I drop down, no matter how much I drop or how much I try to shift, my knee will stay back here. It won't go out like that. Okay, and pick up the heel. All right, then this one is where we get really complicated. I'll keep it simple. I call it the bicycle pedal. Bicycle pedal. Look at this, see? Chug, 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 right? Okay, I moved with that one as a joke, but watch, when I get to here, I don't want to shift anymore, right? I save this back knee and hip has a huge power that can now twist the other way. So when I was coming this way, it's coming through my back this way. Bop. And now I'm going to switch it. Bop. And now it's coming from this side of my body. So I'm going to power this way and this way, right? The shift has power coming through the front side. The rotation, the power comes through the opposite side. Okay? If you dug in the ground really good on that first one, then you're going to do this. Watch. You're going to reverse the direction that it comes up through the body. Okay? And now it's going to come out this side. Right? So that way, hey, power through this way. Hey, power through this way. It feels like you're flipping the gates completely. Right? Totally different power. Even like you might do this where you push first with this side and then push with the other side. So go push, push. This is like this tiny split, but it makes a huge difference in how it feels and applies. Okay, so why is this hard? Because when I say bicycle pedal, people will start doing this kind of thing. That's why you want to try to work on keeping your head totally still and aligned. Then your hips, they're going to open and close. And you're going to feel power down through the legs again, but not coming up with the hip. None of this stuff. Okay. Yeah, keep your waist long and then twist and fold, twist and fold, twist and fold. You're always going to be at the same height with your hips, but you'll feel the power comes up through your back. See? Power comes up and that creates the bicycle. The hip doesn't come up to create the bicycle, okay? Not this movement. The hip stays down and open, close, open, close. So you can still keep really anchored and heavy, but you're transferring the force across. So that's the 7th step, right? 4 was to shoot out, but don't put any weight. 5 was still don't put any weight, but screw into the ground. That's the force of your leg expanded. 6 was shifting, no rotation. 7 was rotate, no shifting. Okay, and you're actually going to change the way the power flows through you. So I feel like you went bump, bump, bump with the lead side, bump with the back side. Cool, and then you repeat at least 10,000 times so that you do all those steps in order and don't skip them when you're going fast and not thinking about it. Okay. Looks like we got a pretty young crowd, but when as we all get older, okay, it's gonna be tougher and tougher for us to stay in balance. Or it depends how much you're training, right? But in general, it's gonna get harder to stay in balance. And what happens is people have a really hard time even learning the form because they're constantly worried about falling over. So your brain has a really tough time to have this continuity while you're learning, memorizing, or not even memorizing, just while you're trying to connect the technique, trying to do something. Good, right? Once you're trying to keep a technique going, and you're constantly out of balance. I mean, first of all, we know if you're out of balance, then you're in big trouble as far as being able to lead any sort of self-defense technique. But at the same time, just doing the form, just practicing or competing or doing it for fun. If you're out of balance, you're constantly worrying about that. And so really important to first start at the bottom. We'll fix your balance. Okay, you don't want to do this kind of fixed balance where you're always off balance and you just get better at catching yourself, okay? You gotta get out of that game and go down to this from the bottom up, right? Everything should go from the bottom up, right? Everything's always balanced from the start. You don't throw a bunch of stuff where you have to be like, trying to catch yourself everywhere you go. Okay? You want to go start from the base and it comes out. You see how that can help a lot of arts and styles and movement. Just getting a good feel for that. Finding where your center really is and knowing which part of your foot which part of your foot your center of gravity is and where it isn't, where your weight isn't yet. That causes a lot of problems. All right, so I think I saw like 11 questions. 11 questions. Let me get to them real fast. Do we have time? Oh yeah, okay. Oh, it's not 11 questions. It's Jun Hong telling everybody what's going on. Okay. Oh, there are some questions. Let's see. Is the back leg straight or bent on the last step? This was from Kyrie, right? Okay, so Kyrie was asking, is the last step, the number 7, I believe, is the back leg straight or bent? And it's complicated. You want it to extend almost to straight, but remember, I'm keeping that screwing into the ground. So like that roundness there will make sure that way I'm digging in, it can't lock, right? Or go completely straight. Because if you open the hip like that, you'll always have a slight arc. You won't have to think about it much because you're going to try to go straight. Okay, you'll try to make it straight, but you're going to twist, and the twist makes it impossible to be completely straight. So instead of being reminded, hey, your back leg's too straight, hey, your back leg's too straight, if you just start with the right method, you never have that problem. Same with overshifting or getting your knees past toe. It's less common if you start with a really good base. All right, cool. Okay, I guess it's just more comments. So I thought maybe I had a bunch of stuff I was ignoring, didn't want to ignore it. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask? You could unmute and ask it.
Hey, Justin, Wes here.
Oh, hello.
Wes here. Can you show us a small part of the form to demonstrate the power that you're breaking down in a slow way? I don't know if that's.
Oh yeah, and you actually reminded me that I was going to go into a little bit of the difference between some other styles. So thanks for asking that. All right, and I'm seeing a lot of other cool questions. Let's see. So we have that. Oh, thank you. I was trying to first. Okay, good. And I also get to Jamin has a question about some self-defense stuff. Yeah, I'm happy to entertain that. It's fun. So, for example, I'll use the same exact walking. Okay, and I'll go slow first, and then maybe smoother later. Let's just do a very classic one, 楼膝熬步, brush knee, twist step. Oh man, you still can't see my feet, huh? Excuse me, guys. I'm in this community center. All right. So for example, this is called 楼膝熬步 from Yang style. Okay. So I'm gonna do is first look, pivot, empty. Right? I commit 100% and I thrust upwards while I bring my body down and my leg in place. And I close and reach out. I dig into the ground first, and then I shift and twist at the end to push. So in the first part, the power is coming through this front side, which is my left. And then as I go, then I transfer and square up. Now the power comes through the other side to push. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing. Watch this one. As I pick this one, I'll do this. 1, 2, 3. See the foot comes underneath. Head stays still. 4, reach out. 5, dig in the ground. 6, shift, no rotation. 7, rotate and push, dig in the ground. See, so although you're gonna go faster, but you don't want to skip the steps, right? You go pivot, commit, pick up, reach out, grab down, shift, and twist. If you have trouble with your knee buckling during this step, a lot of people do this in competition. See the knee, called 跪膝, the knee buckles. That comes from not knowing how to do this, right? This fixes it. I used to have that problem too. When I really realized that this work there is so nice. You wrap around, dig in, okay? And then you'll find that your knee is just always solid and lined up with your toe. You can try really hard to make it wrong, but it's hard to make it wrong if you're drilling it like this, right? I'm sure there's a good joke in there. I'm not gonna try though. All right, cool. Nice. So someone else asked about a hook step. So I believe you're talking about Chen style hook step, yeah? Cool. So different types of stances and styles will have different counts. So my 7-point walking really only works for Shangbu. But by using this, the principles there, you'll find that even in like Chen style, it's very, very similar. In fact, a lot of that silk reeling terminology came from practicing Chen style. So I'll get into some Chen style walking real quick. You can do a similar drill with this kind of diagonal side bow step from Chen style Taiji. So watch out. I'll still pivot. Okay, almost exactly the same. I'll still commit, but when I commit, I want to keep my knee open here. And I'll circle in and tuck in. I drop down and I kick out diagonally. And look, before I shift, I feel and grab the ground. Boom. And then as I kick here, right, it goes kai, open, deng, kick the ground, ji, shift over, and then he, then I spiral this hip inwards. And then that way now, I'll have to see this knee is round and bent and open. And then this one is folded and it's lined up with my foot, which I guess you can't see there. So this knee is lined up with this foot. This knee is open and pushing to this foot. Okay, and you fold in. So you do is like you spiral one, tuck the other. Spiral, open this one, tuck the other. And that causes this kind of swirl, but you don't want to rotate. Okay. Okay. So it's another way to practice one. Then I go pivot, empty. See, I did that first. First, I empty and drive this down. Then, when this is completely empty, then I can bring it up, go down. See the head, try not to move. Kick out, grab the ground, still head shouldn't move. Then kick and twist and shift. Okay. Chainsaw is a little more complicated on the shifting part because this is double spiral. It's really being expressed more clearly. In a sense, it's easier because you can see it. Whereas a Yang style, I think it's kind of hidden and maybe easy to not notice. So on Chainsaw, right, we open really wide on this side so that we can kick into the floor and then fold. You notice it's almost all side to side. There's a little bit of rotation sometimes, but you never, very seldom you're gonna see squared up bow stance in Chen style. There's some differences in the count, right? But all those principles are the same. When you pivot, you want to stretch the toe along the floor and have a very precise pivot point. If that point wobbles, you're gonna have a bad joint to pivot on, right? You're gonna have a bad pivot. You're gonna start to fall, your weight will go into your toe and your foot gets stuck on the ground. Okay? Foot gets stuck on the ground, you notice it, it tightens up, sends the chin up here, now you have to catch yourself, right? So you're gonna learn how to pivot independently. Then shift completely from the base, okay? And see, my steps different in Chen style, right? I hook up and come in, reach through. But it's still the same idea. Look, when I bring this to my heel, comes to my hip, then I circle this together, I go down, and I kick and open my hip out so that it still has that alignment. See, there's still a bowstring kicking into the floor. And that before I shift, I still want to wrap around and dig in to create that power from the one side and folded and rootedness on the other side. All right, good. Someone asked about it as fighting. So, and I thought you said you were going to have a hook. I thought you had a hook punch. I was going to say, oh, it'd be fun to talk about. But I said, how do we line up the hook step in a fight? And we got about 2 minutes left. So hook step has many reasons. One is a sweep. So I'm locked in place here and actually hook in and kick the leg out, right? Pretty straightforward. You can see that across lots of martial arts. Also use this as a check for kicks. So a lot of times when someone comes and kick, they check and then kick the other leg. That's why I see them go 1, 2 like this, right? Because they check the kick and then try to kick the back leg. See that same kick we do in our Chen style stand is pretty common used on the standing leg. So someone comes in kicking and they get checked and then kick out the other leg. At least that is the traditional method. Good. But yeah, a lot of times you're changing position and trying to use the leg to sweep from the inside, from the outside. There's lots of tricky stuff with the knees, using your knee to come in and, you know, balance someone else's leg. But yeah, there's a lot more to that for another lecture about application stuff. Any other questions before I go? Yeah, I think we got 1 more minute. Am I right, Junho? Okay, I didn't leave much time for questions. That's good. All right, well, I was really happy to be a part of this event. And it's good meeting all you guys, at least even though I was just talking to a computer, but hope to see you guys in real world someday, right? At a big event without masks, that would be cool, maybe next year. All right, cool. So thank you very much, everybody.
Justin, thank you so much. It's so great to have you, share your knowledge with us again.
Sure, thanks.
Great to see you.
I can't believe it's already a year, right? It's already been a year.
I know, I couldn't believe it. Brandon messaged me, was like, we're gonna do this again? And I was like, oh my God, it's been a year. So fun.
Cool. Yeah, this thing went by fast, huh?
No kidding. Okay. I know we're all at home, but have a great one, man. Thanks so much for sharing. You guys, you can contact Justin if you want to learn more with him. He's on Facebook, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not using it for personal stuff anymore because I was like, debating people and it was really stupid. And so I now just go on. You can find my school is Wu Academy, Wu-Academy, not Wu with 2 O's, okay? Like WUSHU, right? Yeah, and I'm here in Santa Rosa, California. Yeah, if you want to know anything or you want to chat too, I love talking about all this stuff. I also do, some traditional styles, modern styles, lots of Taiji. So thank you. You're all invited.
You guys ever get to compete on the USA team? For all you guys who are in the US right now, this will be your team leader.
Well, it's not set in stone forever.
Well, hopefully, eventually.
Well, I love doing it. Yeah, the last couple of years, I was lucky enough to get selected to be the team leader for the traditionals. And
I see.
Yeah, and I've done it for the modern one too, but we'll see. I always apply for it first. So.
Well, you're a great team
don't
leader.
let anyone else do it, right? Just let me do it.
Hey, I think everyone would be happy with that.
Yeah, it's when you have a big team like what was 360 people, that was it's pretty tough to manage it. It was you don't sleep and yeah, it's fun. I like it.
Appreciate you.
All right, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
See you.
Take care, guys.